Lovely team. Good morning, lovely team.
And how are you today? Oh, good.
St Mary's Church in Southampton help people in crisis by running a social supermarket and a pay what you can cafe. Tony and Rachel are regulars.
I'm Tony. I'm in recovery. Had a long-standing addiction problem sort of through most of my life, from my late teens until about a year and a half ago. I volunteer at a place called CGL, Change, Grow, Live, which is like a sort of community place for people with addiction problems, alcohol and drugs. And I also volunteer at a local rehab.
How did you hear about the marketplace at St Mary's?
Through a friend. I live in supported housing, and someone who lives in one of the other houses was already coming here, and I saw the little cards they had advertising.
And what was your experience when you first arrived?
Yeah, it was good. Welcoming. Obviously, nice selection of food, cheap, so it helped. Because I'm sort of on benefits and that at the moment, so I didn't have a lot of money. So yeah, very useful.
And what difference does it make?
Well, it helps with the food, obviously, financially. But it's also like, it's a nice place to come in the morning and just meet up with a few people, have a chat. Staff here are lovely. So yeah, it's a nice way to start the day, I guess.
My name is Rachel. I'm from China. I live in UK for 5 years. I don't have a job now. I don't have incoming. So I talked to St Mary's staff. I want to join it. Then I got it. I'm very glad. It's very, very helpful. Help me.
How often do you come?
Almost every week. Thursday morning. Sometime holiday, maybe I have other thing to do, so I don't come.
What difference does it make?
This the market, the place is very, very help me. This time everything the price up. It's very hard time. Like me, I don't have a job. I don't get income, but I come to St Mary. I got wonderful food. Wonderful food. Oh, I'm surprised. I think, this God help me. This God look after me.
Enjoy your shop. Yeah. This guy's going to take you around. Okay, thank you. How are you? Yeah, lovely. Yeah. Nice. Where do you want to start? In the freezers?
As well as doing their shopping, marketplace members can also get advice from staff from a local GP practice. Team leader Jenny Gardner says improving people's well-being means taking a range of factors into account.
We come in each Thursday and we talk to the members, and it's around what matters to them, what's going on for them, and we advise them, we signpost them to other organisations as best we can. And also, because the surgery that we work with is very close to the church, it means that many of the members here are also patients at the surgery, so we can link the services up and make sure that even when it's a medical issue that isn't something we would deal with, we can link them in with the appropriate support through that surgery.
What sort of inquiries do you get?
It's really varied because everybody's different, everyone's going through different things, but common issues would be things around mental health, isolation, finances, benefits, housing issues. I think those would be sort of key ones, particularly in the Southampton area.
So you can refer them on to the appropriate agencies for further
Yeah,
help?
we can refer them on, and sometimes it's around referring, and sometimes it's just signposting people. Sometimes people can do it themselves, but they just need to be pointed in the right direction, and we're always, advocating that people, where possible, take ownership of what they can do, and we just support them as best we can.
What's the reaction of people when they find that there's someone like you to talk to here?
It's just been really positive from the start. We've had the church itself has been incredibly supportive the whole time. It's been a really great relationship, and I think the members really benefit from it as well. It's just adding, further kind of support, on top of the support they're already getting here, but it's just adding another layer to what's already on offer, which I think just makes it a really special place.
Sophie Holt-Fanner heads up the work at St Mary's Church.
As a church, we ran a Love Your Neighbour food bank through most of the pandemic from 2020. And then as we were transitioning out, we also felt there was a need to transition from emergency food to something that had a bit more kind of like community focus, where rather than we went out to them, we would encourage people to come to us so that we can grow a community. There's a sense of routine to go somewhere, to meet new people, and get people out of a house that they'd been in for 2 years. So with partnership through the diocese and also Southampton City Mission, who run a lot of food banks in the city, we piloted the marketplace to trial the whole kind of social supermarket pantry idea, to see how that suited our community and if people would come to it. And thankfully they have, which has been great.
So how does the marketplace work?
So the marketplace is a membership system. So we are actually with the pilot marketplace. There are others, two others that have set up since in the city. And if you live in the postcode, so we're in SO14. So if you live in SO14, you are able to come and sign up for a membership. We go through a bit of a process to understand kind of why you're coming to us, what led you to us, where your needs are, and then each week as a member you will pay a £5 membership fee to go for a shop. In your shop you get 15 items. We colour code our items, so they're based upon kind of price and what they are. So your kind of top price, so your like meats, your fishes, and then we have like your ready meals, cooked meats, down to like your fruit, your veg, and also your tin goods. What we love is that we have a fridge, a freezer, and your dried food. So it's not just here's a tin, it's actually you can really make substantial meals with the food that we have. And our team shop with our members, so it's one-on-one shopping. So there's also a chance to kind of grow in connection and relationship there, whilst also talking about how you're going to use this food, what you're going to cook, thinking about healthy choices. And so they go around, they do their shop. And then generally, either before or after their shop, a lot of members will grab a cup of coffee from the cafe. We have a pay what you can afford hot food. So we have toasties, bacon baps, sausage sandwiches, and they'll sit down and maybe spend, 20 minutes to maybe some will be here the whole day, particularly those who, we find that those who've been struggling often sometimes stay for the whole day because it's a sense of a place where they feel like they belong, or that someone actually cares for them, because otherwise they're just going to go home and sit on their own. We actually are part of a study by the University of Southampton on kind of food provision across kind of the city, and the preliminary results of the first kind of interviews. It's a very small sample at the moment and it's growing. But the initial results from our sample here was that actually the biggest impact was the community, that more people were coming because of the people or because they felt they belonged here. The food was good and that was helpful, but actually what surprised the researchers was how much the community side had such a positive impact, and so many of them commented on that, which is just awesome to hear.
In Hounslow in West London, Hope Church run a food bank and cafe and provide wraparound care for people including refugees and asylum seekers.
I'm from Iran. And why was it you left?
Because of my religion. Yeah, I converted to Christianity, so that's the reason I left my country. Right now I'm an asylum seeker.
How did you hear about the church?
Well, when I arrived here, so I was looking for a church. So I do some Google's research and I find this place, yeah.
And how have they helped?
Well, they're really helpful. As I write here, they just have welcomed me and yeah, they helped a lot.
I came from Eritrea
And why did you leave Eritrea?
because the government problem and in war in soldier because I know like war. I want peace. Then I'm out from Eritrea.
How did you hear about the church?
Yeah, church. I speak to some people where is charity or where is church. When somebody send me here, then from October 1st until now, with Hope Church, I am good contact and help and food every week. I take food from here, from Hope Church.
So, how do you think the church have helped you?
Yeah, for me, very, very good. I like I'm the good feeling and good craft, good power. When I'm come here, when I take food also, full confidence. I am happy, really. My life, I am happy. And everything support. My application, home office application also, people help me. Everything, really, because I am not understand in English. Yeah, then people, everything help.
Kaz is a member of the welcome team at Hope Church.
I'd helped with the children's work here for a long time and decided to change. They needed people to help with food bank, particularly. That was actually during COVID. So when the first lockdown happened, some of our helpers here at the food bank were a little bit older than me and needed to shield at home. So I didn't need to do that, and so I started helping here at the food bank. And it's sort of seeing the need. You get to talk to people, you get to hear their stories. You hear stories from people who've had to flee their country, and it can be heartbreaking, really. And so I kind of got drawn into helping people, because of the shortage during COVID, and I love it, so I've kept doing it.
And what support do you offer?
Well, we ask if they would like to have a visit with a welcome box. It's tough for them. Most of them are put into hotels, which might sound nicer than it is. It's one room. Even for a family, I visited a family. It's stuck in one room. And it's not necessarily a very friendly environment, shall we say. So we offer a welcome box, which we take so that they've got toiletries and just nice things for the kids, some small toys and socks and a woolly hat if it's winter and that kind of thing. So it's not a huge thing, but it's just something that we like to offer. And then we'll try and help them. One lady last summer who had 4 children with her, and there were cooking facilities in that there was a cooker, but there were no pots or pans for her to use. So we always say, do you need anything? Can we help you? And we can't guarantee to provide things, but we were able to get a lot of cooking pans and utensils for this lady. And some clothing. At that time we were helping out with clothing. We now refer them to a clothing bank, so we work in partnership with another church because we didn't have room to store clothing as well as food. But we will help them and point them in the direction of other people that can help them. So we can help them with practical things like registering with a GP, finding out about how to get around. I think some of the hotels are better than others at helping them to do that if they are desperate for anything in particular. If they don't have a toothbrush, we provide that kind of thing.
And help with filling out forms?
And filling out forms, yes, absolutely. So they can come here to the church, and we will sit down with them, help with reading forms. I mean, they get documents on their phone, and it's a nightmare. These are people who don't have English as a first language. Some of them have very little English, and I helped one chap with a 9-page letter from the Home Office. It was almost impenetrable. it wasn't until I got to page 8 that I was able to answer a question about transport to an interview that he was going to. So practical help like that.
Okay, well, first of all, well done everybody, we made it through half-term week. Well done, thank you so much for all your hard work. So Nicola, do you want to kick off in terms of donations?
The Reverend Claire Clark is the vicar of Hope Church.
There was so much obvious need here in the Hounslow area, and we had already been running our food bank before the pandemic for 6 years, and then with the explosion of need, which coincided with Love Your Neighbour kicking off, we felt it would be really good to join together with them. They've helped resource us and look after us and inspire us, and also we at that point were able to open our second food bank at our Good Shepherd location at that time of the pandemic.
What would you say is wraparound care? How do you understand that?
So we really believe that each guest that comes to us for whatever reason, that we want to look after the whole person. And so it's not just giving a bag of food. So we try to do all of our community work within the construct of how can we best serve this individual person. So it might be that a family comes and therefore we want to refer them for children's activities, for parties that we put on, our kick football club that runs every week, things for children to do who may not have access to finances of doing other clubs. And then we might look after a family by helping them with their schooling. We've helped with people doing forms for getting into local schools, things like referring them to the clothing bank. Many people need clothes, especially our asylum seekers and refugees. And then with those guys, helping them fill out forms, prepare for interview. We've done English as a foreign language classes, but also just conversational, practicing their English opportunities, helping people find a doctor, particularly for asylum seekers and refugees. Some have found it really difficult to find the healthcare that they've needed. And there's a particular surgery who have been very kind in partnering with us and will always take people that are in desperate need. And so we're able to help in that way. Mental health and well-being sessions that we've run. So just trying to think about the whole person. How can we best support this individual or this family in their time of crisis and need?
How do people get in touch? Do they find you or are they referred to you?
So we have about 167 referral agents. So people from schools and doctors, social services, Citizens Advice Bureau, all of those people will refer people to us. And that's really helpful because, again, it helps us with the wraparound care. They will tell us the reason that they're being referred. It's somebody else who is aware of their situation, but also word of mouth, and people do come. So for the first time that they come, we help them for 2 weeks without a referral, and then we try to encourage them to get a referral. And that way we know that there is more people, more professionals involved in their care, and we can help support them the best way we can.
And you're starting another drop-in?
Yes. So we have our two food banks on a Wednesday and a Thursday, but we're finding that a lot of our asylum seeker and refugees who are staying in hostels or hotels, they don't have full cooking facilities. So food bank isn't quite what they need. So next week we start Hope Haven, which is our drop-in especially for these guys. They'll get a bag of snacks and maybe fresh fruit, things that we can help them with physically, but also there'll be laptops around so we can help them fill out forms. We'll have some Farsi speaking, some Spanish speaking people to help them in their own languages, and we're hoping to open the kitchen so that they'll be able to cook here at the church and meet together as a group of people from all across the globe.
And at the cafe, it's a lot more than just a cafe. For example, there's debt advice.
Yes. So we, again, thinking about the whole care of people, when they come to the cafe, some weeks the Crosslight are in for debt advice, and they're able to help with all sorts of money, budgeting, people's benefits. So we'll go around the tables at the cafe. Does anybody need some help? And then they can talk to those guys. We also have the mental health team in. We have something called community solutions that come in twice a month, and they will help with all sorts of things. They're from the council, be able to give good advice and signpost people to the things that they need. Plus we have the once a month we have job people in, so people to help you get back to work, a little job fair. People can go and talk to them about how to get back into work.
This is a huge amount of work for yourself and the team. Why do you do this?
We feel it's part of our DNA and call as a church in this area to be at the heart of the community who serves the community. And that's been right since this church was reopened 10 years ago, that was right at the heart. How can we help families, and how can we serve the community with the love of Jesus? And how can we do that practically? So all of these ministries that we do rely on volunteers, rely on grants. We're always doing grant applications, and our church volunteers and teams really committed to this work, which enables us to serve the community. And we feel that's really at the heart of our call as a church, and the heart of Jesus's call to us as followers of him, to be right in the mess and the difficulty, to be right there alongside the broken and the hurting, the foreigner, the refugee, the stranger, the widow, the orphan, to be right there at the heart of that.
Churches are also tackling the causes of problems such as unemployment and debt. One of the organisations that churches work with is Christians Against Poverty, known as CAP. Their free service has been recommended by ITV's money-saving expert Martin Lewis. David is currently a CAP client.
My wife left me after 30 years marriage, and I was having 2 wages coming in, and I was down to 1, and then I couldn't really cope. And things got on top of me.
And how did this affect you?
It made me depressed, anxious, even suicidal. And at one stage I did try to take my life.
How do CAP work? What's the process?
Well, if you're in debt, you find their number and you phone head office, which is in Bradford. Head office has got all different experienced people, like lawyers, solicitors, financial body, all those sort of things. And then they arrange for a local representative or a local debt manager to phone you. Usually the first point of call is a telephone conversation, and then just to establish who you are and what sort of difficulty you're in and your struggles and that. And then after that, the second sort of like interview, you get a face-to-face with the debt manager. February 21, I phoned them. I had a telephone conversation with them, and then for 4 months after that I thought, nah, it's not for me, or they couldn't really do much for me, but they started the ball rolling to get me onto a plan, and then I sort of, after 4 months, I phoned up this debt manager and I said, it's not for me. You can't help. So then I just signed off. And then June 21, that's when things got really, really on top of me. And I didn't answer the phone, open my letters, didn't open the door, and the letters just built up like I come back off holiday and all the post was on the floor. But then I was at a real low ebb and I tried to take my life. But when I come back out of hospital, I re-phoned Cap and I phoned up the debt manager and I said to her, you can't really help me, but I need help, and then put the phone down. And then sort of like 2 months after that, she sat down with me and we sorted everything out. I gave her all my debt letters and everything, and then they started me on a plan from head office, and I've been on it ever since.
And so what's the current situation?
The current situation is that I'm, like I say, if you stick to the plan, which I am doing, the long term is 2 years' time, I'll be debt free, and so I can get my life back on track for my twilight years with no worries and that. And I just can't believe the organisation there. So they are so good. They're very helpful and supporting.
Mark Worthington is the CAP manager for Gateshead Central, based at a live church in St George's, Gateshead.
The routes into debt are varied. Even in my short time as a manager, I've come across different situations. Somebody who got an unexpected bill, an underpayment of tax unbeknownst to them, of £4,000, and that started a spiral down. She was a low-income NHS worker receiving benefits and ended up with large debts because she could no longer cope, no longer manage, is one. Another person unemployed because of an injury, quite a nasty injury, and now on benefits, but got debts to some utility companies. Not large debts, but can't cope with it anymore, with depression, some mental health issues, as well as the fact he's dyslexic, which meant he's not really addressed his bills because it's embarrassing and he can't read very well.
So if people think it can't happen to me...
It definitely can.
So one little thing can tip almost all of us? I
think so. I often think, could that have been me if I didn't have the mental health and well-being that I've got at the moment? The lovely thing about working for CAP is that you're there for your clients, and then we can talk about, let's work this together.
From the examples you've given so far, it wasn't people's fault. It was just something happened and they found themselves in debt.
Yes, the kind of picture that most people in debt are feckless or deserving. There are obviously going to be a few people who are just careless, but there's so many people there, but for the grace of God, you could be.
And there are particular pressures at the moment.
Yes, there's the cost of living crisis, as we find. So one of the things that CAP does is we draw alongside the client, we gather the information, we help them to be honest and open about that, address those matters, and then it goes from the manager, the coach, to head office, and they put together a budget. And then we talk about the budget and we talk about the preferred ways to come out of debt. And the problem at the moment is, for many people, it is getting very difficult to actually balance the books of costs of heating, costs of living, costs of all sorts of different things. And when you're on benefits or work and benefits, and they chop and change each month, perhaps depending on how your income comes in. If it's big on one month, your benefits will be less the next month, and that makes it hard to budget, especially if you're not kind of stable mental, physical situation. So yes, it is difficult, and we see it quite acutely. Sharing a story of one of my clients, and I went to see him. He was living in 2 rooms, several pairs of socks on, only ever puts one bulb on, cooking from a camping stove because he thinks that the gas stove will be too much. And all he had was a can of tomato soup. We were able to help him with some emergency aid, which would help him through 3 weeks or so. He was so grateful. But he was in a difficult situation, and the only way he was able to keep a balance, if it is a balance, was by living in dire poverty. Lovely guy, Manchester City supporter, but we all need something to be forgiven for. Yeah, and he's a lovely guy indeed.
How are people referred to you?
They come from a number of sources. So when we were starting, one of the tasks of opening a new centre is to make contact. So obviously with Citizens Advice Bureau, because that's a place where people go to. Community link workers, because they hear the stories and they can refer people on. Sometimes mental health social workers, psychiatric helpers do that. It can be by word of mouth. We have got slides in GP practices, and I've had 1 or 2 referrals from there. We have got a very good relationship with the debt team at Gateshead Council, and they obviously have people who get referred to them or come across their books because of either rent arrears or council tax arrears. And they have passed on many people. We've pursued them, obviously with their permission. We've pursued them, and we've had a number of clients that we've been able to help and continue to help with there. And that's shared between Citizens Advice Bureau and also with Christians Against Poverty. Sometimes, because we go to people's houses, that's much more helpful. Some people can't come out. Can think of a number of clients who just never go past the door. It's a success when they do that. So going to their house is a safe environment. Obviously we do our safeguarding checks and risk assessments as we go there, but we can work with them in the comfort of their own home with a befriender there as well, and we can do it on safe territory. Sometimes they don't want to do that. Maybe children at home don't want to share their situation, and we can meet in a third-party place, again with a befriender there. So we're a little bit more flexible because we are prepared to go to people's houses, and I think the nature of many of our clients with mental health issues, depression, anxiety, panic attacks, medications as well, that's a really good help that we can give.
Is one problem that people are just ashamed and so struggle to ask for help?
Yes, there are some statistics. CAP is very good at picking up statistics of clients who come to us. Of the clients who, of the people referred who become clients, many of them, most of them, have spent a year waiting to ring CAP. Having the number and not being prepared to do it, which just suggests a whole lot of people who don't know there's somebody there to help them.
What does it take for someone to get out of debt?
Good question. I think there's a courageous moment they have to do. Certainly coming to Christians Against Poverty, they have to pick up that phone and ring the free phone number. As I said before, they're met by some lovely people who are very, very well trained, compassionate people who get the information from them. It must be a difficult call to make, assure them of what's going to happen. So that's the first one. Second one is letting somebody into the home and just having to list the debts that they've got with all the documentation. One of my clients, a couple, they gave me 2 plastic bags with attempts they'd made to try and get out of debt themselves, but also with a lot of envelopes that had never been opened, and they just couldn't face it anymore and had almost given up. And that's a hard thing, to lay bare your financial situation. Then there has to be that stickability we talked about before. We work with them, they work with us. We're very clear that you've got to keep to the budget, no more debt to take out. Keep telling us, because there's always changes to debt, to finances, and so the budget has to change and adapt to that. Keep answering the phone, keep answering the post that comes, but we'll be with you all the way to do that. And I suppose the last thing of that is the trust. To trust that, trust the statistics of what CAP does every year, of thousands of people who are declared debt-free. Trust the people who come to see you, that they're there on your side. I suppose trust yourself as well. Trust that I can get through this. I've got help. It's all right to receive that help, and I'm going in the right way.
The projects around the country are supported and resourced by Love Your Neighbour. Tom Jackson is the chief executive.
Love Your Neighbour is an alliance of churches in towns and cities across the United Kingdom, which is aiming to support individuals and families that are in need, perhaps those who are particularly isolated or who are struggling at this time. And our aim is to equip churches and the partners they work with the expertise and the resources to be highly impactful in the way they're supporting people. How did it start? We started, churches have been involved in this work for ages, but this alliance came together during 2020 and the lockdown, when suddenly we were facing people who are living alone, and as we all know, who couldn't get access to food, couldn't get access to medicines, whatever it was. And so it was a simple effort, starting initially in London, to say how can we join together to make sure we're in touch with people, supporting them, and particularly initially around the issue of food and other crisis support, trying to work out strategies to support organisations that were in touch with people, perhaps overwhelmed with some of the needs around them. We realised we could create systems to get food to people faster, and they could distribute them out in their area. And so we started to do that around London, and then quite quickly people got in touch with us, say, oh gosh, we need to do something similar. How did you do that? We managed to get some resources, and so it started to spread around the country.
Now, you concentrate on crisis, cause and care. Why do you pick those three?
Yeah. Well, I think, as just mentioned, in the COVID era, but also we've seen more recently in situations like the support for people coming out of Kabul airport from Afghanistan, or people coming from Ukraine as refugees, and many other areas. People are facing, not least at the moment in this cost of living crisis, we're seeing people facing real urgent needs, perhaps homeless people coming out of prison, and so we do want to make sure we're supporting them in that first instance to meet practical needs, whether that is areas as well as food, like clothing or hygiene, or other areas such as that. But at the end of the day, to support a homeless person with a hot meal on a cold winter's night is really valuable. But at the end of the day, you don't want to stop there. We want to help people get out of crisis. And so that's why we're trying to tackle some of the underlying causes. And they may be issues of debt, or they might be about addictions, or they might be about employment, because if you get a job, then you can actually start to, pave your own way in life. And so yes, crisis, but also cause. But all of that is underpinned by these communities of care, because actually the thing I think that people want most of all is to have connections. And it's that power of people coming alongside each other that makes such a difference often to the stress, to the confidence that people can move on, whether they are in crisis or dealing with the causes of it. So we talk about those three areas: crisis, cause, but also these communities of care.
And all this in terms of organisation is based around church hubs. Can you say how that works?
Yeah, we churches have historically played a major role in forming the first hospitals, the first schools. Many of the charities in this nation have come out of churches, and churches are still in every town and village and country. There are more churches than there are pubs in this country, and they want to be helping people. They want to be supporting people, and so they're a great way. And of course, churches, you don't have to be part of that church. Others are welcome to come into it and play their part in it. And so they're a fantastic way. If you do want to bring the community together, a church is a wonderful way in which to do that. And so our aim is to draw upon that desire of churches, to resource churches to do that better. It's not just about the church themselves, it's about the partnerships they can forge. It's about helping them to be more connected with others, local schools, other charities, refuges, local authorities, about forging that ecosystem so they become more connected. But I think churches can play a really strategic part in that renewal within their communities and those around them.
What's the motive behind all this?
Well, we are coming from a church commitment, and I think is part of the teaching of Jesus Christ, is to love people, is to care for them, to love your neighbour. That's our name. Those were his words. And I think it is this sense that, the Christian call is to love God, but it's also to love those around us and to express that out. And so that is the motivation. And I think we want to reach out to take care for each other, to value the dignity in each other, to recognise that everybody has a value and that we're all stronger if we're in this together. And that when we do that, we are expressing the love of God, which is what we believe is our fundamental calling and privilege in life.
Some people might be a bit nervous about getting involved with a church-based project because there might be concern the underlying motive is to convert people.
Yeah, I make no apology for. We would love everybody who would like to have a relationship with God. We think that's one of the amazing calls, perhaps the greatest call we have in our life. But we want to support people because that is an outworking of the love of God in its own right. And so people are welcome to get involved in this. They don't need to feel they're involved in having to be converted themselves. Nobody who comes into any of the support that we offer is under any obligation to engage with the church, to engage with Christian faith. There's always an open invitation, but our work is about the value of the change and the support that we give to each other in and of its own right. And we think that is fundamentally Christian in and of its own right. And so we would welcome everybody. We do welcome everybody to get involved in this. This is something that we can all do together.
Thinking about the scale of the problem, you've described helping so many different types of people. Does the scale of the problem ever concern you?
No, because I think this is this is what it means to be human. And the scale of the problem, there is a huge scale of the problem. I do think in our context at the moment, because our social cohesion and our social fabric has been weakened, we're going to see more and more need. And the churches or the partners we work with, we can't solve it all on our own. And there are systemic and structural issues that need to be dealt with. That's part of our community is involved in forging those kinds of solutions. But actually, at the end of the day, the systems and the structures can't do it on its own either. It requires people, neighbours, to come together to love each other, to take care for each other. So I think it's I think it's good for neighbours to be supporting each other in diverse, multiple diverse areas. And hopefully, if we do that, then to some degree, the scale of the challenges will reduce, and we're assisting the process of structural and systemic change that also needs to take place alongside it.
Unfortunately, at the same time, we're looking at an increasing cost of living crisis with, for example, interest rates going up. So isn't that another challenge? This is going to get a bigger problem.
Yeah, the challenges are growing, but that's why it's even more important that we do this kind of work.
What difference do you think Love Your Neighbour is making?
I think that we're playing our part in the strengthening of local relationships, a force, an energy, a network that can really make a difference to loving and supporting people around, so that they can get their own lives back on track, so they don't just feel ignored or bypassed on the streets or in the homes around them. And I think if we can do that, get this network of rich, active, personal love in our communities, then I think we can play our part in making a really significant, a really important difference.
You know what, it's just given me a bit of structure on a Thursday morning, I guess. It's helped with finances. Like I said, it's just a nice place to come in the morning. I live in supported housing, so it's helped sort of me and other people as well. Sort of other people from where I live come down here. And like I say, it's just a nice place to come down, have a cup of coffee, relax for a little bit in the morning before I go on and do the rest of the day. It's also a nice place to get to know other people in the community, because the people I've met here, I probably wouldn't have come across them otherwise.
We've had such a fantastic experience linking in with the marketplace. It's just been positive from the start, and I talk about the marketplace in the church all the time. I'm a real big advocate for the place, and I'm always talking about the relationship that we've had and encouraging other teams to look to develop that in their own areas as well, and to see if they can create a similar setup, because I think it's a really powerful thing.
We are called to serve. And I had a vision when I moved into this role, that in Acts they talk about how, in the new Christians and the new church, there was no poor or needy among them. Everything was brought together and shared. And for me, that's how we should still be living now as a Christian community, as a church, is we should be doing what we can for those who are classed as poor and needy, and sharing and giving our time and our finances and our food. And if we're not, then we're not living out how we're called to. And so it's quite a harsh reality, but that's how I see it. And I think as a church, we should be doing what we can within our kind of capacity to support those on our doorsteps.
I can't tell you the number of times people say thank you, thank you, and they want to give you a hug, which is lovely. Obviously that's a reward. Over time, you build up a relationship with them, and They are grateful. They are very grateful for what we're doing for them. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Person in debt, or if I knew a person that talked to me who knows a person in debt, I would give them 100% support to get in touch with CAP, because you do need support and help. You cannot do debt on your own.
I just tried to imagine the moment when somebody gets a phone call, and everyone will be crowding round the phone at Bradford head office, if they're the lucky ones to do the phone call. And they've all got kind of blow ticklers and kazoos and things like that, and they shout, you're debt-free, and people talk about dancing around the flat.
I guess at a time of crisis through the pandemic, there was a great swell of the nation knowing that we were in a time of crisis, and a swell of people wanting to get on board. And we've had many community people who are not linked at all with the church who have started to volunteer and help and serve alongside us. And that's also been part of what I think has been happening in our community, that it's not just one organisation, but lots of organisations, individuals, streets in the community who collect for the food bank or who come and volunteer to stock the shelves. That has been a real blessing and a real sense of joining this community together. And at the moment in this crisis of people not being able to feed themselves again because of the need that we're facing, so many people come in, they can't heat their homes and feed their families. And so the numbers of people coming who are working but are still really struggling to make ends meet, and the sense of the community coming together at this time, what can we do together to help one another, has been a real gift.